I wonder if, I bet that's Joe's number one. It's got to be.
I don't know. We should text him and ask. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Taste Like Music. Jason and Kramzer here. Don Henley week. This one was not supposed to be a duo. We're supposed to be a three-piece here for this episode, but second time in channel history, someone's calling off for illness. Joe's not feeling great today. So Kram and I going to soldier on without him. Got to still deliver the goods for you people. So here we go. Don Henley should be a quick little episode, only 5 records to get through and only 2 of us talking about them. So might be a nice little quick one for a change. Don Henley, obviously former Eagle, current Eagle actually still. So yeah, 5 solo records. You're not a big fan of the Eagles, but you do like Henley more than the Eagles as a band. You've had a couple of his songs on your list, Songs of the Year list. So kind of interesting to see how you feel about the whole catalog though.
Jason, that's correct. I definitely like him more than the Eagles, and he is my favorite Eagle. I really like his voice. I listened to his stuff back in the day, but I gotta say, my opinion of some of these albums have changed very much after a long drought of not really revisiting them. So I'm interested to see what you have to say. And I'm going to predict we have the same number one.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Man, it's possible. I kind of doubt it, but we'll see. I know only the hits of Don Henley, really. I know my dad had The End of the Innocents on CD, and I used to listen to it at night for some reason. Like falling asleep, it was a CD I would put on a lot. And I remember like the first track, and then I'd fall asleep, and then I would not really know the rest of the record. So that was all pretty new to me. And yeah, that's about it. I really just the hits on this one. So all the deep cuts were new to me. Should be said, every week on this channel, we cover a different artist. Sometimes they're artists we know and love. Sometimes they're new to us. Sometimes we don't always love the artist we're talking about. So maybe that's a little different than some other channels that rank records on YouTube. But if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're coming up on 10,000 subscribers, so help to get us there. We're making that final push. And yeah, let's do it. Bottom of the list. Want me to start?
I do want you to start.
I think there's a good chance that you have the same record at the bottom, but I'm interested to see if you dislike it as much as I do. I have Inside Job from 2000. I think this is one of the worst records we've listened to for this channel. Melodically, I don't think there's anything here that's interesting. Everything's super safe. I'm surprised to see like he's involved in all the songwriting, because all of these songs just reek of being written by like huge teams of songwriters. They feel like focus grouped. He does have a writing credit on every song, but usually there's like 2 or 3 other writers. And I would not be surprised if he was just kind of like, you want to write a song for old Don Henley, he's getting a slice of the pie too. Like, I don't know that he's actually involved in the writing here. I don't know. Everything feels very impersonal. It's just ballad after ballad. Taking You Home is track 2. I was like, man, you're really taking it down like 20 notches for the second track. It's a little early to be going this mellow. I don't know. And then he follows that song with For My Wedding, which is the lamest, sappiest song I've ever heard in my life. It also doesn't help that this record came out in 2000, which was not a great year for production trends. Henley's voice sounds good. I think it always sounds good. I don't think there's a record where his voice really falters. So that's the one good thing about it. It's 70 minutes though, and not one of those minutes is enjoyable. I'm going a half a star for Inside Job. I think it's horrible.
My number 5 is Inside Job, and I have it at 1 star. So, and I had never listened to this before this project here. It's awful. It's so bad. Everything you said is spot on, including the one positive note, which is why I don't go below 1 star. His voice not only is Still good. It barely even sounds like he aged that much, to be honest. So you got to give him that. I've always really liked his voice. I think there's like kind of like a boyish hue to it all the time, which is really cool. And I also like when he kind of goes up in his register, he just manages to always kind of stay in the same arena, but never really get into falsetto or break or anything. But man, you're right. And song to song, the style and production is always like kind of different. It's really baffling. And that's kind of true in all of his albums. Like there's never one cohesive kind of strain of like style on his albums. Plays around a lot, but you do get those terrible, especially in the percussion, terrible, early 2000s notes there. All of it is so over the top and lame and bloated and just fixated on being so much persona and so much emotion. Like on everything is different now. Like that kind of tough guy gimmick he does is really kind of lame. The only song on here that I think is better than terrible is Workin' It. I think some of the guitar work in there is cool. And it's also just got this terrible kind of blend of adult contemporary, overly soothing kind of just lameness with just these really trite lyrics that are like you said, focus grouped that sound deep, but they're really not about anything, like a goodbye to a river. The phrasing and everything there is just terrible. He's trying so hard to be emotional. Title track doesn't do anything, especially when he drops the F-bomb and does the doing it and doing it and doing it part. It is really friggin' lame. Throughout his catalog, I think he makes the mistake of rarely playing to his strengths. They're not there, they're not coming. We got that cowboy vibe that totally clashes with some of the early 2000 stuff, but the drum sound is terrible there. He's also name dropping Oprah and McNuggets on this album. He literally talks about McNuggets. I don't think it's quite as clever as he thinks. His best stuff on this album, and best is a very relative term, and in his catalog, is when he just, with Don Henley, less is more, big time. When he just kind of calms down and lets his voice do the work and writes these simple little tunes, that's where he can, get on base, hit a home run. The worst song on here is The Genie. It is so weird and awful. And at the end, when they're like, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, and just these backing choruses out of nowhere, it's so lame. Annabelle is not bad, but it is rather bland. And for such a slow ballad, that's kind of like in that Desperado sense, or like, it's just making it even longer, even though it's one of the more tolerable songs. It's like, oh my God, is this going to ever end? The closer is absolutely atrocious. I don't remember the last time we did a 1-star album on here, but it is a 1-star, awful, awful album. So I'm with you.
All right, glad we're seeing eye to eye on that. My next one, number 4 for me, is his second solo record from 1984, Building the Perfect Beast. Like on his debut record, you have a ton of guests, even more so on this one. You've got Mike Campbell and Lindsey Buckingham, Charlie Sexton, Pino Palladino, Jim Keltner, Belinda Carlisle, Randy Newman, all these people coming in. This record is less new wavy than his first solo record. It's a lot smoother, maybe a little Dire Straitsy, although this actually came out a year before the Dire Straits 1980s blockbuster Brother in Arms. But it has that sort of feel to it a little bit. Opens with the classic Boys of Summer, which Mike Campbell wrote and made the original demo for. I think he showed it to Petty, and Petty passed on it initially, so it moved to Henley. He got a crack at it. Really good song. I like that track a lot. Then Man with a Mission, really lame update of like 50s rock, really bad lyrics. I don't think that one really works at all. You're Not Drinking Enough, I think, is pretty forgettable. Not Enough Love in the World is pretty boring. Some nice playing on the songs, but it's just really bland. Second half of the record shifts more into like the politics and world issues. The album's title track, Building the Perfect Beast, is all about cloning, and I don't know, I think that's a terrible song regardless of lyrical content. The part where the backing vocals are just going building, and you've got this industrial clanging noises, you got weird synth horn stabs happening. I just think that song is a total mess. The synth sounds on All She Wants to Do is Dance. I think those are pretty bad too. Better hook than the previous tracks that I was talking about, but I don't know. It's not a song that I love. Not terrible. There's a few good standouts. Boys of Summer, I think Sunset Grill is pretty cool, but most of this sounds pretty dated and it's not that memorable. It lacks the energy of his debut, so it comes off just kind of meh. 2.5 stars for Building the Perfect Beast.
I don't think I'm hearing the debut the same way you are. I'm not getting a ton of energy and I'm not getting a ton of new wave. To me, it sounds like, what's the best way to put this? First of all, I think on these 80s albums, he doesn't have a ton of good songs in him for any of these records. When he writes a good song, it's really good, but he just doesn't have that many. And I also think he's just never really being himself, like on these 80s records that much. It never comes off as natural. It's almost like he was tired of being in the Eagles. He wanted to do his own thing, and he liked all of the influences that are on these albums. Like I Can't Stand Still, by the way, is the debut, and it's my number 4, and I've got it at 2.5. And to me, it's like all of these things that he's trying to live up to, but not getting there. Like it's like a wimpier version and a less fun version of like Billy Squire. He's trying to be like really relatable, like Springsteen. To me, this album almost sounds like he's just like, I really like what Bruce Springsteen did on the river, and I think I can emulate that, but it just kind of falls flat. It's not a total loss, but it is pretty vapid and just is wrapped too much in that adult contemporariness where there's not a whole lot of depth, there's not a whole lot of creativity, not a whole lot going on. But at like a quick glance, it's an enjoyable, easy to listen to album. It's not complicated, that's for sure. You get a little bit more rock and hard rock here than like some of his contemporaries like Robert Palmer or Phil Collins. But you know, like you get a little bit of this like kind of riff driven, You Better Hang Up. Long Way Home is a decent little ballad, bring big Springsteen vibe for me there. Getting some kind of like Americana undertones everywhere, especially with None of Your Business. Talking to the Moon is okay. I love Dirty Laundry. Like, I think he knocked that out of the park. It's a lot of fun. It's upbeat. It's danceable. It's got a really cool, like, very rarely do I like the songs that he comes up with that aren't about people or like innocence or like kind of capturing the moment. That one obviously about, you know, the state of media and all of that. Also a tremendously underrated guitar solo in Dirty Laundry, really awesome. Johnny Can't Read is just awful though. It's so bad. Yeah. So, you know, it has some of that like 80s blues shine on it, like Clapton. So to me, it's just kind of this not sincere play for him to be a solo artist, get into some of the things that he likes, but aren't really what he's about. So I don't think he's like ever finding himself or bringing himself to light here. None of the songs really hook me other than Dirty Laundry, but none of it really bothers me. And I think it's put together well. And it's just a really easy listen. So I don't hate it. I just think it's decent. 2.5 stars. I Can't Stand Still. Also, he throws in some like those like reggae kind of tropical like kind of tunes on the first few albums, and this one on Unclouded Day or Nature of the Clouded Day or whatever it's called. It's just, I don't know. He doesn't know what he wants to be at all to me.
All right, my number 3 is The End of the Innocents from 1989. This was his best-selling solo record, 6 million copies. Pretty impressive numbers. For a record that doesn't have that many tunes that really kind of like endure to this day that you still hear very often. This continues the trend of like smoothing and sanding down any rough edges that his sound had, which wasn't many to begin with. But this is really just like full-on adult contemporary. You've got Bruce Hornsby, who co-produced and co-wrote the title track, which isn't an amazing song, but it's pleasant, it's soothing. I kind of like it. I Will Not Go Quietly that has this really weird Axl Rose feature on it for some reason, which is, I don't know, a really kind of poor attempt at rocking. It doesn't rock very much. This record, I think, is actually better. Kind of what you were talking about of like him being at his best when he keeps it simple. I think it's at its best when he just kind of allows it to mellow out and be what it is when the songs are good. If he has decent songwriting and he doesn't try too hard to be like a rocker, then usually it comes across pretty well. I think there are some well-crafted songs on this record. The title track, for one, I think is pretty well written. New York Minute is a good song. Last Worthwhile Evening is cool. The Heart of the Matter. These kind of like ballads that have nice melodies that aren't overcomplicated with weird arrangement choices or Axl Rose. Those kind of tunes kind of work. But the other stuff, man, some of it is really corny. Shangri-La has this weird gang vocal thing going on. Not sure what they're going for on that track. How Bad Do You Want It has some really horrible sax sounds. Little Tin God has this bad faux reggae sound to it. I don't know. It does have a handful of his better solo tracks on it, but also some pretty bad stuff too. I think in the end, it comes across just like an okay, decent little record. 3 stars for me.
Yeah, The End of Innocence is also The End of the Innocence is also my number 3, 2.5 stars, and I agree with you 100%. It has better songs than my number 4, I Can't Stand Still, but it also has worse songs. That lead synth horn on How Bad Do You Want It is an absolute abomination to the ears. It's so bad. You know, the title track is good. Like you said, even though I'm not crazy about the drums on the title track, they sound like what Boston would really want to pull off decades later. But you're right, this album has considerably better melodies. I wouldn't say hooks, but they're more pleasant to listen to. I Will Not Go Quietly has these like huge drums and gets kind of like really obnoxious and boisterous with the sound. I don't know. I think a lot of his personality just kind of gets lost and he just overthinks so many of these songs. They feel bloated. I don't think he has a good grasp on just like his natural music and artistic tendencies. Like just like, again, falling short, trying to do just things that he likes rather than what he is. But, you know, those songs like Heart of the Matter, New York Minute, they're not bad, but the terrible songs are just so bad. And most of the songs, you know, other than some good melodies, just don't have a really good skeleton to them. You know, If Dirt Were Dollars is cool, but he really just lifts the melody from the verse from All She Wants to Do Is Dance. I don't know. This one I was between 2.5 and 3, and I'm sticking at 2.5. So I still don't recommend it, even though, you know, it's got a bunch of songs that, you know, are on his greatest hits and rightfully so. But I don't know. It just leaves a bad taste on my mouth. And there's just too many tracks that you just want to skip right over.
All right, my number 2 is his first solo record, I Can't Stand Still, from 1982. Again, tons of guest players on this: Garth Hudson, Jeff and Steve Porcaro, Steve Lukather, Waddy Wachtel, Joe Walsh, Bob Glaub, Leland Sklar, Russ Kunkel, Timothy B. Schmidt, J.D. Souther, Bill Withers, Warren Zevon. Just basically everybody is on this record. Reviews of this record all mention that it has like this palpable anger to it. Dirty Laundry, I think, is him being disgusted with media and tabloids. Johnny Can't Read is him being mad about the American education system. And so the grumpy old man persona that he has worked to cultivate and maintain for all of these years stretches all the way back to the debut in 1982. He was only 35 years old when he made this record, 3 years younger than I am now. Ironically, though, this I think is probably his most fun record, even though he's angry throughout a lot of it. I think it's more upbeat. I mentioned it being a little new wavy. I mean, it's not Duran Duran for sure, but it's like, you know, early 80s rock, Greg Kihn band, that sort of thing. Rick Springfield, whoever. But, you know, it opens with I Can't Stand Still, which has this really weird keyboard sound on it, but I think it's really cool. I like it a lot, actually. It sets up this really kind of cool atmosphere on the track. I like the chorus a lot. And then there's that solos that's really weird sounding, but I think it's interesting. It's probably one of the more interesting things that he did on any of his records. A rare case of him taking a chance and it kind of working. His voice, I think, is really strong. He sounds great throughout the record. Even on the less interesting tracks, his voice still sounds strong, like on the ballad Long Way Home. Nobody's Business, I think, is a pretty cool track. It's co-written by Bob Seger and J.D. Souther. You got Ben Montench on keys, Korchmar and Wattell both playing guitar. It's a good little rock tune. Dirty Laundry, pretty cool. You mentioned the solos. There's actually 2 killer solos. The first one's by Joe Walsh, and it is amazing. The one near the outro is Steve Lukather, and that one is also really cool, although a little more straightforward, kind of just 80s sort of shredding type of solo. The Joe Walsh one, though, is really weird, and he's playing some really unexpected notes and stuff. It's one of the more interesting Joe Walsh solos. You get another one of these like beachy semi-reggae tracks to close it, The Unclouded Day, which doesn't work at all. But overall, I would actually call this a good record, and I will give it 3.5 stars.
I was right. We got the same number 1. Very unexpected. My number 2 is Building the Perfect Beast. Starts off with Boys of Summer, which has way more emotion than anything on the debut. I like You Can't Make Love. It's snappy. It's got a cool little, like, just easy tune to it. I think all of these, compared to the other 2 80s albums, these ones are just a little bit more refined. They're a little bit more aware of themselves, and they're all much less grand, really. Like you said, all the other ones have so many big, like 5.5 minute, 6-minute ballads where there's just so much going on and everything's pushed so forward and just held up on this pedestal. And this one's a lot calmer. Man with a Mission, I do not like at all. You're right. You said it before. When he tries to do just like heavy attitude rockers, it never works. It almost even comes off as like puny and pathetic at times because it's just not him. I like You're Not Drinking Enough. It's a nice little country ballad. So one thing you can't say is that his albums are one note. Like a lot of these songs just have a lot of different styles and influences that come in. So diversity is never really a problem listening to one of these albums. But just the strength of the writing is often a problem. But I am going 3 stars. I think it's good, even though I think there's some lame tracks on here, like Not Enough Love. But the title track is really cool, entirely different sounding. I actually like all those big industrial synthy drums going on. At least he's trying to make a big artistic statement there. I love All She Wants to Do Is Dance. I even like the synth noises. I think A Month of Sundays is really cool. Really good, actually. The lyrics just like kind of about generation opinion of, the state of blue collar America. It also feels like nice and heavy for this album, which is a little bit lighter than the first 2. So pretty cool that he can kind of balance doing like, fun stuff like All She Wants to Do, and then like these really earnest like pop songs like Boys of Summer, and then he can do like this blue collar type anthem for A Month of Sundays. I think Sunset Grill is kind of interesting. It has like an almost Berlin-esque like bass part to it. I like Driving with Your Eyes Closed. Cool, like good little pop beat. Kind of reminds me of One Thing Leads to Another a little bit by The Fix. And Land of the Living closes okay. So there are far less duds and there's a lot of highs here. And it's just a much simpler album, which are his strengths for me. So 3 stars, Building the Perfect Beast. And we got a bifecta here. It pisses me off Joe's not here because Joe is so sensational with everything he talks about me to other people. I obviously like country, not nearly as much as you guys, and I have shown that there are especially influences of country music that I like. So for him to not be here when I take The Country Album by Don Henley as my number 1 really busts my balls. But go ahead, let's talk about it.
I was just going to say that bifecta is a much better term. Last week, Joe called it a duofecta, which
there's nothing clever about that. Yeah.
Cass County is both of our number 1s. He makes a full-on country record in 2015, and thank God, it's exactly what he needed to do. It gets him out of like overthinking arrangements and, trying to write these songs that appeal to, I don't know who he's trying to appeal to on Inside Job, but I don't know. It just makes it easier on him, I think. He doesn't have to think so much. It's going to be a country arrangement. We're going to put some pedal steel on it. you're just going to sing it. We're going to pick some good songs. Like half of this record is covers, and they're well chosen covers, I think. The originals work pretty well. They bring in a ton of guests. He has guests on all of his records for the most part, but this is the only one where you have like a guest singer on every track. It's basically a duets record, and everybody's good. They don't try to bring in a rapper. They don't try to bring in, the youngest pop star just to sell more records. They're not. Everyone that's chosen is here because they're good, I think, and they all do a serviceable job. It opens with a Tift Merritt cover that is sung with Miranda Lambert and Mick Jagger. Everyone sounds great on it. I love Mick doing country. I always find that enjoyable. I think, like I said, everyone pulls their weight. All the guests make sense. Trisha Yearwood's good. Merle Haggard's good. Vince Gill, Lucinda Williams. Dolly Parton comes in. I think she kind of steals the show on her track. She just absolutely kills that performance on When I Stopped Dreaming, which is an old Louvin Brothers song. She's just kind of in a class by herself. Even as late as 2015, just so good. But this record is what we've been saying the entire video, is that he's at the best when he keeps it simple, stays out of his own way. This is a very safe record. He's not taking any major chances, I don't think, but it's safe in all the right ways. It plays to all his strengths, and it comes across really well. And he still sounds like he did in his 30s and the early 80s. So his voice is really good. 4 stars for Cass County.
Yeah, I'm also going 4 stars, Cass County, which means I think it's great. It's a great country album, straight up country. I do think that the harder, more rock and country songs are the weaker ones here, but I'm also kind of glad they're on there just to, get your blood pumping a little bit. Bramble Rose is awesome. I'm with you. I think Mick was a totally cool choice. And yeah, the best way to put it is everything about this album was just the right move, like the right choice. Like you said, didn't bring in a rapper, didn't bring in Taylor Swift to like appeal to young people, just in his comfort zone. Less is more, keep it simple, be yourself. Like, you're not Robert Palmer. You're not going to blow people away with your sexuality. You're not, Duran Duran. You're not friggin' Billy Squire. It's just not going to happen. You're Don Henley. Make it happen. Yeah, I love Bramble Rose. Love the harmonica there. Cost of Living is really cool. And yeah, the covers are great, but you got to give it up to him for the originals here. Like, Take a Picture of This. I think that song is like Don Henley in a nutshell. It's really great when he's talking about capturing nostalgic moments, feelings, loss of like innocence, awareness of fleeting moments. Very impressive. Waiting Tables is wonderful. The heavier rock and stuff like No Thank You, I'm not crazy for. I think Praying for Rain is a little weak, seems a little bit forced, but it's still really enjoyable. I love Words Can Break Your Heart. Could be corny in any other sense, but he does it in such a good folksy manner. That Old Flame is great. McBride is really the only one on That Old Flame that isn't my favorite here, but I traditionally don't like that hearty Southern woman sound. Except, Dolly Parton is amazing as well on hers. Younger Man is really strong. It's like just exactly like I think it's great and so good that I just want him to do another one, almost just like this, maybe grow a little bit from it. But 15 years after the 1-star effort, yeah, I didn't read too much about what went into making this, like why he thought just going back to his country days was a great idea, but it was. Train in the Distance with Lucinda Williams is awesome. A lot of these songs are going to be on my list tomorrow. So, I did not know that this album was this good. I knew he had a country album that came out 5-6 years ago or whatever. Never listened to it until this project, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm very, very happy that he redeemed himself. I mean, it's weird to say, but this album is easily my favorite album by any Eagles or Don Henley situation. Like, it's not even close for me. And I love Don Henley's hits from the 80s. That's why I wanted to do Don Henley. So he has a good greatest hits compilation, and the best of those hits are amazing. But throw this album in there now, and I'm really, really happy to know it. You didn't see that coming with me, did you, Buster?
I did not. No, that's a cool surprise. So let us know what you think of Don Henley as a vocalist, as an Eagle, as a solo artist. Let us know how you would rank his studio records. Let us know what you think of our lists. Hit the like button, subscribe. Like I said, we're coming up on 10,000, so it would be great if you could help us get there. Hit the bell for notifications, and then check the video description. You will find all sorts of stuff there: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, our website, our merch store, our Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. And you'll also see some of the upcoming listography artists that we're going to be doing in the near future. So take a look and check back tomorrow for our top 10 favorite Don Henley songs. Thanks for watching.